Jimmy Butler, he's a very interesting player to me.
Just goes to show the offense for the Dallas Stars could not keep up. And when the defense needed to step up, the Lightning's offense just overpowered them.
It makes it almost impossible for their bats to get going or have any confidence in the locker room when you're getting absolutely hosed on the defensive end.
He's like, oh shoot, I don't know where to go with the ball because I haven't been able to think.
It's their defense, man. Minka Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt.
You saw Luka. I'm very intrigued to see how Luka bounces back after his first playoff series.
For next season, there are massive free agents like Giannis. And if Giannis goes to a team like the Heat, like I said before, I expect them to win the championship. 4 teams who could win the AFC in my mind, legitimately. Steelers, Chiefs, Titans, Ravens.
Stay undefeated when they face the mighty Cowboys with Garrett Gilbert and Tony Pollard.
It was a great series. Game 4 was one of the best games I've ever watched in my entire life.
So happy when the Astros lost because it would definitely be a 2020 thing to have the Astros win a World Series and then you have to hear them.
Now LeBron's a 4-time champion and Anthony Davis gets his first.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I was impressed by their game. Braden Point, Andre Palat, Nikita Kucherov, that was the best line in the playoffs, no doubt.
I think you have 2 established number 1 wide receivers in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, and I think you have an emerging star in CD Lamb.
Hey everyone, I'm Jared Sandler, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. This is right after the draft, so we're looking over our mock draft that we did. Let us know what you thought of that. Make sure to check that out to see how far we did. We did a point system. I won 10. Austin got 4. So I won 10-4. And we'll go over what picks we got right at the end. We're going to go through each pick, give a quick analysis. So we'll start with number 1. You and I both had Jabari Smith, Austin, but surprisingly, they went Paolo Banchero, which I think he will. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the best player of this class. It just seemed like the Magic were going to go with Smith.
Totally true. Banchero, I thought was the best player in the draft. I said that last time, but both of us were trying to predict what other teams would do. And that's what's so hard about draft is you're not saying your top 30 players. That's not what the draft prediction is. It's who's going to take each player where, and that's where you and I have really struggled. There's not many. I don't think you and I have ever gotten even 5 picks fully right in any draft ever.
I would agree.
You can check that if you want to, but this time you got 4, and especially not after the top 10 do we ever get more than 2 or 3 right fully. I did terrible. I think I got 1 point in the NFL draft, maybe 2. It may have been 2. It was 1 or 2. It was very little points. We did the same point system. I did terrible on that one. I do terrible on this one. I just need to rank my top 30 and just not worry about trades and all that other stuff. Again, we'll get to the one where I messed up a trade, some other stuff that happened. But yeah, Jabari Smith not going 1 was surprising. But again, I didn't think he was the best player in the draft, and the Orlando Magic agreed with me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he pairs up and how well he does. But now we can go on to the number 2 pick. We'll go with Chet. I had Chet. You had Chet going to 3. I thought they were going to go with Smith after he was still on the board, but they still go with Chet. They're picking upside on that pick. So I predicted it, so I'm not that surprised.
Yeah, but it's still surprising because Jabari was on the board. I'm like, man, are Kevin and I both going to go 0 for 3 in the top 3? And then they took Chet. I'm like, Jabari's falling to Houston? That top 3 was crazy. Crazy. There was no way either of us could have predicted that top 3 because none of us, Woj, before the draft, said it's set in stone. It's Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, Paolo. And Woj was completely wrong. He obviously got Chet right, but it doesn't matter when you get the other 2 wrong. And for him being such an inside source, Kevin did just as good. So I was shocked because I thought Ben Caro was going to go here, but he wasn't on the board. So I'm not that mad that they didn't take him because they couldn't have taken him. But I was surprised they didn't take Jabari Smith, and I think Jabari Smith has a higher floor than Chet. Chet needs to put on some weight. I'll have to think about it. We'll do our, just like we did for the NFL, we'll do our 5 most surprising things during the draft, just like we did for the last one. And that may be a part of it, but it was crazy to me that they didn't take Jabari. So let's just move on to the Jabari pick. Houston takes Jabari.
Yeah, that was amazing. I think that's a great pick for Houston. I'm a little envious because Houston is a rival of Dallas. And I think Jabari Smith, we both have him going number 1, and he's a great shooter and great defender, which we've talked about. And I think this is an amazing pickup for the Rockets.
Oh, 100%. They're so lucky they didn't get Chet because I feel like Chet wouldn't set the system. They're a speed team. Jalen Green is fast. They had Christian Wood, but Jabari Smith can basically be Christian Wood with better defense. Like, that's his upside. Obviously, he's not as... They're both around 6'10", I think. Maybe Christian Wood's a little bit taller. But Jabari Smith's 6'10". He can't rebound as well as Wood, but he can shoot better than Wood. He can defend better than Wood, but Wood can rebound better and finish inside with more ease. But I love this pick.
Yeah, so now we'll move on to number 4. Kings get Keegan Murray. Great forward to add. I thought they were going to trade it, but they decided to pick it there, and they get a nice player in Keegan Murray. Interesting that they didn't go guard here with Jaden Ivey on the board.
Yeah, I also thought they were going to trade the pick. It's a great pickup for them, in my opinion, because you can't keep on going guards. They picked up Tyrese Halliburton. They picked up Davion Mitchell. They obviously drafted they traded for Buddy Hield, and they drafted De'Aaron Fox. They had to go some other way, and I think Keegan Murray and Domantas Sabonis on offense will be scary.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So now I think we can move on to number 5. The Pistons get the guard to pair with Cade Cunningham, and that's Jaden Ivey. I think this is a great pick. We talked about like Jaden Ivey is incredible. I'm glad they didn't go for a huge swing when they had a high pick here. They went with a guy that can play and is good now, but can be even better. That's something I really like the Pistons to do. And they also cleared some cap space. So maybe we'll see what they do. But just getting 2 young guards to grow together is an amazing thing to me.
Yeah, and while Jaden Ivey didn't shoot outstanding in college, he definitely has the upside that can back up this pick. I know a lot of Pistons fans, and everyone of them are extremely happy with this selection. I definitely think that he's going to be a great player in the future, and a shooting guard right next to Cade, the point guard, that's a great fit.
Now we move on to, this is where it kind of started to get surprising. 6, Pacers draft Benedict Mathurin. They get a nice guard in Mathurin, as we had talked about him, and it will be interesting to see how he develops. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that Benedict's the best pick here. I had Benedict going to the Pistons at 5 because Jaden Ivey was off the board, but obviously he goes to 6. It's a good pick for the Pacers. He's a good player to pair right next to Tyrese Halliburton, who was on the Kings previously. So I think that he has a lot of upside. He has a natural fluid shooting motion, and I think he has a lot of athleticism too, so he should fit well.
Now we go to the Blazers selecting Shaedon Sharpe. This to me is a big swing because we didn't see Sharpe play in college and didn't play much in high school, even though he was highly recruited out of high school. Now I think that is a great pickup for them if it works out, but they also lost their first round pick in the Jeremy Grant trade. So I think they're really banking on this to hit, or if they trade Dame. And they recoup some of those assets.
Yeah, and Shaedon Sharpe, I think, can play point guard moving forward. He's obviously 6'7", and Anthony Simons is the point guard going to the future. He's a great young guy. It's an interesting pick. I know there's a lot of upside. They're banking on the upside. It tells me they're definitely trading Dame. Look, I'm not that high on Shaedon Sharpe. I had him falling to 11. If you were going to go with the point guard, I'd have much rather or a guard, I would have much rather gone with Dyson Daniels. But Portland's the team drafting, and they went with Sharp, so we'll see.
So you think they're definitely going to trade Dame now?
Oh, there's not necessarily this season, but there's no way they don't trade Dame or Dame leaves. I'll say that within 2 years. Okay. Dame leaves within 2 years.
Okay, cool. I can see that happening. I thought you meant now, and I was like, wait, what? Just wanted to make sure. Now we go to number 8. The Pelicans select guard Dyson Daniels. I think he's a great defender, as we talked about, and they get another guard. And I really like the Pelicans draft so far, and I like them picking Daniels. I'm going Sochan, but depending on Williamson being at a forward or center, it's nice that they got some nice guard depth.
Yeah, Dyson Daniels is an athletic guard. He can pair very nicely with CJ. He's a much better ball handler, and he's better defensively than CJ. CJ's a good ball handler, but coming into the league, he wasn't the greatest, and I definitely think that he should be featured in the offense. Dyson should moving forward. Very athletic. Dyson with Brandon Ingram, Zion, CJ, and Jonas Valanciunas or Jackson Hayes is a great starting lineup. Maybe you move Zion to center. Power forward would be Herb Jones, and then small forward Brandon Ingram with Dyson Daniels and CJ. The Pelicans are looking up, and I definitely think that they should be happy with this selection.
Yeah, I agree with that. Number 9, we have the Spurs drafting Jeremy Sochan from Baylor. A lot of people are like comparing him to Kawhi, and he goes to the place where Kawhi started with the Spurs. What do you think?
Amazing. Jeremy Sochan, half Polish, half American. One of my favorite players in this draft. His defensive abilities right now already makes him NBA ready. While his offense is lackluster to an NBA standard right now, he can guard 1 through 5, except for some exceptions. There's obviously exceptions. I don't think he can guard Giannis right now and stop Giannis. But for the average NBA player, he'll lock them up. No points, basically, from them. And the Spurs, an historically defensive team under Popovich. This is why Popovich didn't leave. They had 3 first-round picks. They can keep DeJounte Murray. I know there's all that trade talk. I don't think they're trading him. They have all this movement. They have young guys coming up. Pop didn't leave for a reason.
Yeah, I agree. I'd be shocked if they traded Murray as well. Now we go to 10. Your Wizards, they select Johnny Davis. How are you feeling?
I'm okay with it. He's a great rebounding guard. This definitely means that we're going to keep Brad at point guard, basically. I don't think Johnny can play point guard. Johnny has a lot of growth to do. I don't think he'll start next season. I do like his upside as a rebounder. I like guards who know how to get themselves in position for hard rebounds. And I think he has defensive upside. So I'm not the maddest at this selection. And based on the other people near, Ochai would have been a good selection, but we already have Corey Kispert, who's also a shooter. I probably still would have liked Ochai better, but I'm fine with this choice.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think it'll be interesting to see how the Wizards and John Davis work out. Now we go to 11. This is where I think I paused the draft. Actually, I stopped looking or following the draft along on TV because I got confused. But 11 was very confusing. The Knicks traded that pick to OKC, but OKC kept 12, and OKC selects Uzman Dieng. Which is a nice pickup because on the upside, I would have thought differently if the Knicks picked him. But how do you feel about this selection?
I like the upside he has. He's from Australia. He played in the NBL. So him pairing with Josh Giddey, I think, is a very interesting duo. But the OKC Thunder have a lot of guys who could learn how to play next year who are going to be fighting for minutes. And I do like how the organization is going to be worked out. The community there is going to be full of players who just want to play now and are going to have to fight for minutes, and I love that.
Yeah, I agree. I really like what OKC is building. Now we go to OKC again. They draft Jalen Williams, which is a nice guard pickup there, and I really like that pick. And they just got some really young, dynamic players. What do you think?
Yeah, and I definitely believe that Jalen Williams is a good scorer. I think 12's a little high. I still would have taken Ochai over him, but he doesn't have a lot of offensive and defensive upside if he can work out. He's out of Santa Clara, and I think OKC made a good choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ochai fell mostly because of his age, and I kind of would disagree on picking him just because of his age. I think he'll do great, but we'll get to that later soon. Now, 13 is where the Hornets drafted Jalen Duran. He spent 2 seconds on the Knicks and was traded to Memphis. I like this for the Pistons. Yes, because he ended up on the Pistons. It was interesting with the Hornets. I thought they were going to stay at 13 and maybe trade 15, but however, the Jalen Duran to the Pistons, I think they get another young player, especially a center, and I think that's a really good pick for them.
Yeah, and the Pistons obviously get another center. Duran is a athletic big that I think can guard 2 through 5. Maybe not. People were saying 1 through 5, but I don't know if he could guard the speed of certain point guards. It just depends on the situation that it's in. But I do like the upside that Duran has as a defender. As an offender, he's very athletic, can catch lobs. So I think the Pistons made an educated choice here.
Now we go to 14. I was surprised by this because the Cavaliers picked Ochai, and I thought they were going to stay away from him just because he's a little bit older. But maybe the signals that they're trying to win now. They're trying to exit that rebuilding stage. And I really like Ochai defensively, and he can just shoot the three. And if you have someone that can shoot the three, that's just a great thing for you. But he also plays defense, so that's a nice thing too.
Yeah, and he has a lot of experience. He obviously won a championship this past year in college with Kansas, and so I think he has a lot of good intangibles for the Cavs to pick up on. This is the one pick I got fully correct, and that's because I believe that the Cavs are trying to get out of a rebuild. So this is a good pick.
Now we move on to Mark Williams. The Hornets finally get a center. They drafted a center at 13, but then traded him. Now they get Mark Williams. I really like this. I got this pick sort of right because I had them picking Mark Williams. I think he's a good center, and they just needed that. What do you think?
Yeah, but they did pick Kai Jones last year out of Texas, so I think this pick is kind of confusing to me. I need to see where they're going moving forward, and I don't think Kai Jones and Mark Williams are going to be playable at the same time, obviously, and even on the same team, it's hard to get those minutes out of both of them while being able to still play a small ball lineup that the Hornets love to play. So it's a little bit of a confusing pick, but we'll see how it works out. I do like Mark Williams as a player, though.
Yeah, I see your point because I remember saying the same thing. They got a center, but then there were rumors that they wanted Miles Turner this season, but they drafted another center. So we'll see how it plays out. Now we go to the Hawks drafting AJ Griffin. AJ Griffin probably falling because of the health history. A lot of people are not sure to take on that, but the Hawks get a nice defender in AJ Griffin, and hopefully everything plays well because they need defenders on that team.
Yeah, he's more of a shooter than he is a defender, as he shot 45% from three last year, but he does have defensive upside. So I think this is a good pick. A deadly shooting backcourt with Trae Young and AJ Griffin is something I'm glad to look forward to.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that works out. Now we go to 17. The Rockets draft Tari Eason. I'm a little surprised they went with Eason, even though Eason is a great player. I just thought they were going to go younger and maybe more of a swing since they had a lot of picks. But I think Eason's a great pickup here. I had him going earlier than this in my mock draft. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and this is a pick that's confusing to me because they took Jabari Smith, who's a power forward. Then they take Tari Eason, who's a power forward. So, and they also have Shingun, who's a center. So they're getting a lot of bigs. They also have Jayshawn Tate, who's a small forward / power forward. So we'll have to see how it works out. I don't know how much Tari Eason plays, but they're not a great team, so I'm assuming he plays a good bit. We'll have to see how it works out. I had Tari Eason going with the next pick. I had Dalen Terry, who goes with the next pick with this pick. Kind of confusing.
Yeah, let's go to Dalen Terry, as you mentioned it. So I was surprised that they went with a guard here, but I think it's a good pickup for them because maybe Zach LaVine leaves, but even though they would have young guards in Io and now Dalen Terry. What do you think?
Yeah, and Dalen Terry, I think, is a good guard. He's one of the better ones out of Arizona here. So I think that the Bulls made a good choice. It's just, like you said, kind of confusing, but maybe they're banking on the fact that maybe someone gets hurt because they have a lot of injury history on that team. So especially if they trade Zach LaVine, they'll need another guard. So I kind of see where they're going.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now we go to the Timberwolves drafting Jake LaRavia, but he was traded to Memphis. I like this pick for Memphis. Nice young forward, and they're just adding some great players to an already great roster, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he can shoot. He's a little bit raw, but for a Memphis team that's trying to win now, he's definitely ready enough. He kind of fits that Xavier Tillman vibe, but better scoring. And after Jaren Jackson struggled a little bit on offense, picking up a forward who can score is definitely the right move.
Yeah, now we move on to the next pick from the Timberwolves. We go to 20, where the Spurs draft Malaki Branham, a nice guard, and I thought he was going to go much higher than this. I had him around 15. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd want him at 15 as well. I like his scoring ability. Him and Wesley, Blake Wesley, are very comparable, and they both got picked by the same team. So they're going to have some shooting guard battles between those two, and we'll have to see who wins them.
I agree with you there. Now we go to 21. Nuggets draft Christian Braun, which was surprising because Braun can shoot. I just didn't think they were going to go. I am going point guard or maybe forward. I was very impressed and interested in what the Nuggets did in this draft, but Braun is a great player that can shoot the three and gives him some guard depth.
Yeah, and Braun's a guy that has a lot of athleticism for being a 6'7" shooter. So I think that he fits the mold of a player they want. I saw some reports of him going to the Nuggets, but at 30, not at 21. So this is very high for him, and I think he would have made it to 30, which makes me question a little bit of their selection process. But they didn't want to lose him, so they took him.
Now we go to 22. The Grizzlies drafted Walker Kessler, but he was traded to Minnesota. They get a nice center. I don't think he's going to fight Cat for center minutes, but I think he'll be a nice backup player. And maybe if they decide to move on from Cat or Cat wants to get out, I think they got a nice center, and I think they struggled with center depth this past year.
Yeah, I agree with that partially because they definitely need more center depth, but this also adds a defensive anchor to the team whenever they need a defensive stop. Now, obviously, his speed may be an issue, his playmaking may be an issue, comparable to Cat, because Cat's the opposite of that. Cat can playmake, Cat can dribble, Cat's fast for a center, unlike Walker Kessler. But I definitely think that Kessler is not a bad selection here, even though I thought he would fall more than this.
Yeah, I would agree. I was surprised he's picked in the first round. Now we go to 23. The Sixers draft David Roddy, but he's traded to Memphis, and they got D'Anthony Melton back. The Sixers did, and they also gave up Danny Green. I know there were rumors that they were trying to get rid of Danny Green, and they did during draft night. So I like this draft. I like this trade for Memphis, even though they did give up D'Anthony Melton, but they get a nice young player in David Roddy.
Yeah, and I like Roddy. He has a lot of offensive upside. He can create his own shot. He's a bigger guy. He's like 260, a 6'9", 260 dude. So he has a lot of body mass. He can back people down. He's a good post playmaker. He's a good tough shot maker. So I like this pick.
Now we go to 24. The Bucks select Marjan Beauchamp, the forward. I think forward, depending on Bobby Portis, and when they won the championship, they had another forward, PJ Tucker. I think Beauchamp is a great defender. He's not going to be as great as PJ Tucker right now, but it's a nice defensive forward and gives them some depth because they did struggle with forward issues with Chris Middleton getting injured.
Yeah, and I like Beauchamp, even though he did play the G League last year and struggled a little bit, but his upside's definitely there, and I think that this isn't a bad pick for a team that doesn't need too much out of the rookie.
I would agree with you on that. Now, 25, the Spurs draft Blake Wesley. They're just getting some nice guards, and I just really like the Spurs draft because they got solid players with a lot of upside, and if they can develop them, it will be great for them. They lost Derek White. They might lose Murray. I'd be shocked if they got lost Murray, but I don't think you can have too many guards that can score.
Yeah, and the upside on Blake Wesley is a lot, so I think this is an educated pick, and I definitely think that he could grow into be a great scorer.
Now 26, Minnesota gets Wendell Moore. It was the Mavs pick, then it was Houston's. Now Wendell Moore goes to Minnesota. Wendell Moore, I think, is a great forward, great defender, and I think Minnesota adds that. I think it's a really good pickup for them.
Yeah, and I think that Wendell Moore, great shooter, great defender from this past season. Obviously, he had struggles beforehand, but he's been on a lot of great teams, and I think he has a good experience at competition. So he knows to have good players on his team, like what it takes to make the roster, and I think he can do that.
Now we go to 27. The Heat select Serbia native Nikola Jovich. It's going to be tough for any announcers with Yovich and Jokic when they're playing against each other. But I really like this pick. He's a great defender. I think he can also shoot the three well, and the Heat need that, and any team needs that if they want to try to get to the finals. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, and Pat Riley doesn't have a great history of choosing guys that are Euro stashes like Jovic, but I definitely think that he could be. Well, that kind of shows good light on Jovic because he took him. While he doesn't have high praises on most of them coming out of the draft, he obviously did here, and so I think they're picking a guy that I think people should be happy with.
Now we go to 28. The Warriors selected Patrick Baldwin Jr., a nice player, nice upside, but he's also a good guard. And I think Curry or maybe Clay and maybe Poole leaves, we don't know. So just getting more guards, and they could lose Gary Payton this offseason. So
Yeah,
another guard would help.
I think this is the role he tries to fill, and he can grow as a shooter, as a defender. A lot of these guys here are moldable. These later first round and basically all second rounds aren't picked on who they are now. They're picked on who they could be, even though their floor could be really low. And I think that's one of these guys here who has a high ceiling, low floor.
That's a great point. Now we go to 29. The pick goes to Houston. Ty Washington, point guard, really good upside as you're kind of talking about, and maybe he can fill a certain role, or he can be a nice 6-man bench point guard to lead the bench. So I really liked what the Houston Rockets did in the first round and in the whole draft.
Yeah, and Ty I think was underrated. I don't think he should have gone this slow, even though he's a shorter point guard. He has a good bit of upside playmaking wise, and even though he's smaller, he can defend guards definitely. So I think that he could be a good bench guard for them in the future.
Now we go to 30, the last pick in the first round. The Nuggets get Payton Watson, which is what you predicted, and I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, Payton Watson's a guy, high playmaking and defensive upside, 6'8", 6'9", 7, or he's 6'8", has a 7.5 or 7 feet 0.5 inches and a half wingspan. So he has a good bit of wingspan for a 6'8" dude, can defend all positions just like Jeremy Sochan. He's just a lot more raw, shot terrible from the field, but can grow that. And while I thought the Hornets were going to trade for this pick in a different deal that I explained in the previous video, if you want to check that out, I thought Payton Watson had a lot of upside, so making a selection here of him makes sense.
Yeah, I think you covered it well. So now I talked about how you got this one correct. So that's you had it half correct. So I'll let you talk about your point system.
Yeah, so I got Wendell Moore I already mentioned I got Ochai to the Cavs at 14. I had Wendell Moore to the Rockets at 26, but I only got 1 point because he eventually was traded to Timberwolves. And then Payton Watson I had going to the Hornets in a trade, but obviously he didn't. So I got those three right. What about you?
Yeah, so the first three, I got 2 right, and then I got with Chet Holmgren, and then number 4 was Keegan Murray. That's another person I got correct to the Kings and at 4. And then the next one was number 7, which was Shaedon Sharpe to the Portland Trailblazers. And I'm just double checking. So I had those are the first 3, and then I got the Wizards, Johnny Davis. I got that correct. And then 13, Hornets selecting Mark Williams. That's just half a point because Mark Williams ended up with the Hornets, but it was at pick 15. And then 25, it was at 25, and that was Blake Wesley. with the Hornets because I had a trade between the Hornets and Spurs. So there was one that I got really close on, but Blake Wesley ended up going to the Spurs, not the Hornets, but it was at pick 25. So I'm pretty happy with it. I know the next draft that is coming up is the NHL one, Austin. So you seem to take a lot from this draft, and I'm expecting you to use a lot of that insight with the NHL one.
Well, yeah, if I remember the last NHL one, I did a lot better than you, but you tend to do better in NBA and NHL, so I'm gonna have to get my game up in those.
Well, the NHL one, I haven't been as hot with the NHL one. I started off hot. NBA, it's starting to heat because I had the Warriors win the championship, and then I got this NBA draft. NHL, jury's still out on your playoffs, even though you won, but you won by a lot.
I got my entire East correct.
You got the entire East, but you also got the finale, or the final correct for both teams. Now the winner to be decided. We'll have to see. But
it won't matter for who wins it, but it'll matter for a little bit of my pride.
Well, yes, I was considering about. You've already won. You won, I think, since the first. It's been yours since the first round. So that's just a little disclaimer. Make sure to check out all those other videos. We did a Stanley Cup catch up or check in before game 4. 4, yeah. Before that happened. So make sure to check that out. It's a little outdated now, but we'll be reviewing that soon. And Austin previewed our next NBA video. So make sure to check that out. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.